What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So yes, genuinely, my head does hurt. I've been looking a little bit more into optimization of video games, especially in Unreal Engine 4. And like I said to you guys, I think I'm on a journey to crack exactly what may have gone wrong in the development of Gotham Knights that makes the game have variable performance overall. There is talk out there about the game being in a messy state and so on and so forth. But then once you've played the game and you start to actually look into it, you'll realize that it's not exactly what people are saying on the outside, but some sort of a mixture of the information. So this game, Gotham Knights, plays differently depending on where you are. And there have been questions as to the possibility of this game maybe not supposed to be an open world game, and the open world side seemed to have been the after fact of the creation of this particular game. Now, we can't be certainly sure of that, but there are some things that probably rank in, the analyses that I've been doing that probably suggest that this may have been a thing. Why? I've played Gotham Knights, the same session, where I'm getting 120 frames while playing. Look on the top right corner, you'll see my, my frame rate going all the way up to the 120s. And then in some cases, the frame rates have been quite variable because things are not necessarily that stable. Example, when you're here in the open world, you notice that my frame rates are dropping 60, 50, 40, whatever frames. It's just all over the place. And it's best off when I'm in the open world to actually lock my frame rates down to about 60 frames so that I can get more stability. And then when I'm in, say, confined areas, it's also best for me to go ahead and just unlock my frame rates. So the game is actually behaving all over the place. And then I started to dig even deeper, listening to a lot of the specialists in Unreal Engine Epic Games pipeline. I don't know if you guys know, Epic Games have these specialists that are in their pipeline that do trainings for developers across the world. They're called Unreal Engine evangelists, and some of them are actually very well, knowledgeable about the engine. They even make games like Fortnite and direct projects under Unreal Engine. You know, the craziest thing, in a talk that one of them did in 2019, he was trying to tell the developers that, hey man, you guys better make sure that you get your games right, because if you don't get your games right, you're going to encounter a specific person. I'm going to go ahead and show you who he pointed to, and you guys are going to laugh. So please bear with me as I play this small clip for you guys.
This guy, I don't know if you know this John Linneman from Digital Foundry. John is also known in the gaming community as the protector of frame rates, or the human fraps. And the thing is really, Digital Foundry is a great channel. You should definitely watch it, the great technical reviews. But the thing here is that, if you don't focus on having great performance in your game, that will probably affect your reviews. So this is something that you should keep in mind.
So he was basically teaching these developers about best practices for optimization. And he told them and warned them that if you do not optimize your game, you're going to see the protector of frames. And those of us who've been paying attention, you guys know that this gentleman really did hammer down on Gotham Knights. I think for him, most of it was the visuals and all. So that's why I'm like, that's quite subjective, because there are areas within the game that actually look quite good and well done. And so I think if you kind of have to weigh all of that, it brings the whole conversation into this place where you're wondering exactly what the challenges have been. And so thinking about all of this, I started to look even further and looking at, say, the optimization best practices across the industry and what people actually do recommend that you do if you're trying to optimize, your game. And some of these industry veterans, they seem to be onto something. It appears to me that the open world aspect of this game and a lot of the way the systems were built for Gotham Knights would, in my opinion, have put the game in a really weird spot, because just as I've shown you, there are places in this game where you will get very good, clean performance overall. This entire clip that I, have here in the Court of Owls tunnel, for those of you who may not have played it, I guess spoiler, somebody was hounding me today. The game's been out a week. Leave me alone. I'm probably one of the few people that did not put out any spoilers and was able to kind of keep that as a trend. But I have to show this particular thing here. and seeing how the frame rates are just stable all the way, even when you make your way into this area where you have fire, you have, all kinds of visual effects in the game, and it's all running fine. And then to see the open world, it amazes me exactly, how in the world this game pretty much, went down that route where you probably could not do much to salvage the open world performance of the game. And I think what may have happened is a lot of the best practices were either not followed or could not be followed, because there's a question that's actually asked here by the gentleman giving this presentation. He said, am I GPU bound or CPU bound? That is, what is the bottleneck for my game? And I'm certain the developers already knew that their game was going to be CPU bound. And because of the scale of the game, there just wasn't much they could actually continue to do. Maybe the publisher said, get the game out of the window, and they shoved the thing out just like that. And the CPU binding was from, or the CPU limitations were mainly from the open world. And if they followed these practices, then I don't think we would have gotten a game like this. But I think somewhere around, the development phase of the game, they had to pretty much make the sacrifice and said, we're just going to eat a loss for the open world and then give the game, give the closed areas the best possible performance that we possibly can. And this is probably one of the reasons why you have a lot of the way the game is structured. You have loading scenes, where once you go into a specific maybe tunnel or whatever, the game will load. Or when you go into a specific area, the game is going to have a small loading screen there. That allows for the textures, allows for the layers and everything to stream. So in the future, I suggest that when the developers are making another game, that they desist from actually trying to use this open world system with such a complex game as Gotham Knights. And Gotham Knights almost always gets compared to the Arkham games. Oh, the Arkham games did this, the Arkham games did that. But on watching this optimization video, it shows you that actually the workload for Rocksteady compared to Gotham Knights is actually very different because of the way the games are both made. Both games are made to tell these stories that use different layerings in regard to how you're basically telling your story. So you have open world activities in the Gotham Knights game, and then you also have areas of exploration and all that stuff that will still have multiplayer, which also brings in another question that I've been asking that I can't find, is how does multiplayer affect the different areas of your machine? How does a multiplayer aspect come into the open world? And I still haven't found that answer, but I'm still on track to do that. And I can tell you that it got to a point yesterday, my head just started to hurt. But there are other videos as well. This is also another video that was ironically done in Montreal in 2017, which was called UE4 Performance and Profiling, Unreal, Dev Day Montreal. This gentleman here also here in Epic Games, this guy is a beast. This guy gives some really, really strong tips in terms of programming and all of that stuff regarding how you can actually make sure that your game is basically finesse when you finally, release it, because there are so many programming practices that could be, implemented in order for that to actually happen. Now, look at the big example I wanted to show you guys. And I saw this immediately I started playing the game. As I got towards the end of this tunnel, I noticed, as usual, all of the different cutscenes were playing at, 60 FPS. Simple. But once I started to make my way out of the tunnel and I started getting into areas that actually streamed with the open world, look at my FPS. After the loading screen from when I was getting 120 FPS in there, now take a look when it's done loading, you're going to realize that I get immediate when I hit continue here. Come on, boy, hit continue. What was I doing? Was I sleeping? Oh, there we go. Yeah, right here. As I hit continue, immediately my frame rates just slash almost in half. So the big problem with the optimization for Gotham Knights right now is its open world. And I'm sure this is the only thing that they're going to have to structure regarding how, your FPS works and so on and so forth. I've also been able to play some multiplayer in some enclosed areas, but I didn't notice too much of, performance issues. Now, I should have paid close attention, but I have the footage for that. So I can go back and I can analyze, and I make sure that the footage is something that, I get to take a look at so I can see how multiplayer also works in that particular context. And it's actually pretty cool, folks, to just investigate this stuff because, for the most part, it's easy for everybody to be an armchair developer and talk about, oh, they didn't optimize the game. Oh, they didn't do that. When in reality, what optimization methodologies were used and what could have been sacrificed to be able to get this game at the best performance. Because every other game in the market and every other game that's been compared to Gotham Knights has not really done anything like this before. And Unreal Engine 4 doesn't have many examples of games as well that have been done like this. Maybe you look at, say, Outriders, but Outriders hosts a lot of things on, its AI and all the other stuff on the server versus, say, hosting a lot of that stuff in real time as the game is going. So even these best practices, we're talking about some things that, you can make sure that you're doing outside. And in order for me to close this video, I really wanted to go ahead and point out something, because some developers on Twitter have also been talking about this particular, issue here. And one developer in particular was actually, not only they were being tongue in cheek or whatever it is, but they were somewhat bragging as to how they could actually go in there and help maybe the development team with their work and, figure out what the issue was. And he said something about blueprints, which is kind of an alternative method to code. It's a visual coding method. And he said he can bet that a lot of the game is written in blueprints versus, say, C++. Now, there's no way for us to know that, because already the game is in a really interesting place. And if you actually wanted to dig any more or any further in, you're going to realize that, okay, maybe it's a matter of, say, the scale of the game and so on and so forth. I mean, however you want to chalk it up. But he was saying that perhaps they might need to go back to the code of the game and maybe implement a lot of things in C++. And so I think what it is their control process from the art all the way to the implementation probably needs to be looked at very carefully. There are some really, really, I would say much more anal processes that are used in some studios, like this gentleman was saying in the Unreal Day of the Developers, where he said that some game studios, if anybody adds a line of code to the game itself, there's a notification that fires up that says, go get a programmer right now, so that a programmer can watch these artists actually work. I don't know if you've heard about game development dynamics. Artists and programmers, they're usually many times on different pages in regard to what they want to implement versus what they can implement. But I could spend hours and hours talking about this stuff. But at the end of the day, this is where my investigation has led me so far. And I think we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to get to the truth of the matter and really see how possible it is, or what the possibilities would be for this game to eventually reach the point where we're getting the very best, frame rates, the very best performance out of the game. And if possible, this can even make its way to console, because a lot of console players are asking for this. A lot of console players want to see, this game actually achieve that frame capability. It's possible, something that can take about a year to do, but it is not out of the question. All right, that's it for me. Talk to me in the comment section. Hopefully we'll talk pretty much in another video pretty soon. Peace out.